your choices are limited at that point. Who are you going to support? Are we going to support Lynn Marinelli again? Tom Mazur? Barbara was an option early on too. So, we thought about that and put a lot of thought into it, and had been reaching out throughout the year, trying to take everyone's temperature to see where they would stand on it. And when it came back down to it, Barbara was the only choice. She's a good choice. I think she's going to be an excellent chairperson. She's impressed me so far. I don't know if it's going to be a governing coalition. I really doubt that it will. But the way that the other Democrats have attacked Barbara, the way that they attacked her on the floor of the legislature that day, maybe it will be more than we anticipated. I don't think there was any question that making Barbara the chairperson meant that she was going to control the staffing of the legislature as far as the Democratic side of the legislature goes. I don't think there was any allusions to that, and I thought there would probably be substantial changes. The idea, the role, I think you guys really have blown out of proportion the role of Steve Pidgeon in this entire thing, and I think that that's a conscious effort by the Erie County Democratic Committee and Len Lenahan and Lynn Marinelli to try to paint that picture. I think that is a talking point straight out of their playbook, and that is what they're going with, and that's how they're trying to paint this. His role in this was minimal. He's from West Seneca. I think he had some influence in West Seneca. I think that was about it. I don't see any influence on Barbara. Can't speak for Tim, and certainly none of us had any dealings with him whatsoever. I have never even had a conversation with him in my entire life. Obviously, the big thing is downsizing. We talked about that. We're going to try to knock it down to 11, and my goal is probably not far off from yours, Alan. And the relevance of the Erie County Legislature and Erie County government in general is minimal because of the overwhelming amount of mandates that we have from New York State. 90% of the budget's mandated. Do we really need 15 elected officials, an elected controller, an elected county executive, running an elected clerk? Do we need all of these elected officials to insert politics into this, running, an administrative unit of the state? So by downsizing, we start to move towards that. Maricopa County is a great example. Phoenix, Arizona, there's 5 supervisors basically that run the government and an appointed county manager. Phoenix, Arizona, we're talking millions of people, a growing community. Contrast that with Erie County. It's a sharp difference, and I don't think that we need that. I think that the best government is closest to the people, and that's why towns and villages control the zoning and control the land use policies and have the real policy decisions are made at that level. They're not made at the county level. Obviously, we talked about eliminating district offices. By having control over our budget, we're able to do that. My district office will be closing March 1st. At Rath's, I think, if it isn't closed already, it will be. I don't think Lynn or Kevin or Dino opened one. So that's symbolically, I think that's great. I think it was the only county in the state that their county legislators had district offices. And almost the exclusive purpose of that is incumbency protection.
Where was your office?
Exactly, and that's one of my constituents.
Right. Where?
Be a centralized one IDA running. There shouldn't be any IDAs. IDAs are a bad idea. All it is somebody sitting on a board, picking winners instead of the market deciding it. We'll get into a philosophical discussion. I'll get called Jim Ostrowski and let him come and argue my point for me or something. But why do we have IDAs, empire zones, all of these economic development projects that are all designed to lower taxes and create incentives for businesses? Why don't we just lower taxes and lower regulation for the whole state? And then we can compete with North Carolina and Texas. If you create a low tax, low regulation environment, you're going to attract businesses without those incentives. But that's up to debate. We can pick out individual, instances and compare them to others. But I just think overall, the only way you're going to grow the place as a whole is through, generally a low tax, low regulation environment, and that's how you're going to attract businesses to the area. Is there an urban-suburban divide? There's going to be, because you have most of the tax dollars coming from the suburban area and most of it being spent in the urban area. I mean, if you look at the budget, the vast majority of it gets spent in the city of Buffalo. And of course it does, because that's where the need is the greatest, and we're first and foremost a social service agency for the state. So that's going to be the case. And so that's going to create some animosity, obviously, between the city legislators and the suburban legislators. Maria does a great job of saying, let's not create an urban-suburban divide. And then every single time we start talking about doing something differently with the way that we provide social services, and she brings up road patrols and parks and roads and bridges, and just throws gasoline onto the fire. So is there an urban-suburban divide? I try not to think of it that way. I try to think of it as what's good for Erie County. Obviously, first and foremost, you think about your district, but in general, I think I represent all of Erie County, because what's good for all of Erie County is good for the 4th District.